Hey guys, welcome back to the Hybrid Athlete channel. I am Dr. Paul Rimmer, and on today's video we're going to talk about 5 things you can do to get faster in 4 weeks. Now, most of you watching this video probably are maybe doing 1 or 2 of them and aren't really taking the other components as seriously as maybe you should, or you maybe haven't come across them before, or it's just something you've thought about because a lot of programs that you will find that are out there for running, cycling, swimming, endurance-based stuff don't factor in some of the concepts I'm going to talk about today. So with that being said, first thing we can do to get faster is actually follow a program, okay? Follow a program doesn't mean get a program and do some of the sessions but then decide to throw in a couple of extra long runs. It doesn't mean skip the intervals. It doesn't mean, it says work at this effort level, but I'm a bit tired today, so I'll work a little bit at a lower effort level. So when we say follow a program, I mean actually follow a program. The problem becomes that within each program, we do have to be a little bit adaptable. Of course we do. Illness, injury, things like that might get in the way, of course. But if we are literally within the first week of a program just making stuff up in and around that, you know who you are. We've been there, I've been there, we've all done it. The first point really is to make sure that if we've got a program, it's appropriate to the level that we're at. There's a little bit of leeway in there to make sure that we can fit it into our training time and our lifestyle. But once we've ticked those boxes and we've said, look, I can commit this many hours to training, and I'm accustomed to training at these kinds of paces, speeds, volumes, intensities, whatever you want to call it, effort levels, then stick to a program. Don't program hop every few weeks. Give it a chance for at least a month or 2. Now, not all programs are obviously created equal. So the next point, point number 2, relates to the fact that, okay, we've got our program. If we've never stuck to or followed the program in its entirety, that's a good starting point. But the second point is that within those programs, there's going to be certain sessions, i.e. interval sessions, where we're going to have to set some progressive targets. But the reality is, in order to cause an adaptation, we have to put an appropriate amount of stress on the body. So if there's not at least 1 or 2 sessions a week where you're setting yourself some progressive targets, i.e. something that you are going to aim at that is going to make you physically work a little bit harder to cause that stress, then people are just going to level and plateau. Sometimes we have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. So if you're not setting progressive targets on interval sessions, for example, which is why I'm a big fan of doing most interval work for a lot of my athletes, particularly if they've hit a plateau, on treadmills or on things like watt bikes if they're a cyclist or a turbo, because you can be more accurate in terms of the targets you're setting, and then you can increase the power outputs, the durations, the intensities by in a much more gradual, consistent and accurate way, which leads to more progress. So if you're just going out and doing the same sessions and it's an interval session, but you're not progressing your paces, well then it's something to look at and consider getting a program that, yes, follow a program, but if that program isn't progressive within it, then who's going to hold you accountable to that? Because the numbers don't lie at the end of it, but if every session we're looking at the numbers and only reviewing them afterwards rather than setting targets before, then we're likely to fall into problems, and it's certainly been a big help to me and my athletes. So point number 3 is to be honest about and focus on your weak points. If you're not doing strength training because we don't like to strength train or we don't see the value in it, chances are that you are going to be weak enough that you're going to be underpowered. If you're a cyclist, the chances are that your running efficiency and economy is going to be subpar. If you're constantly doing long, easy runs and you're not getting faster at the top end, then we need to put some sprint interval works in there. Like most of the people watching this video, I would imagine, will know the work that they're doing and they enjoy, and know the work that they're not doing and they don't enjoy. And that's really where we have to focus on those weak points. We might not know their weak points until we do some testing. But if you are a serious athlete, competitor, or wanting to take it up a level, and you really do feel like you've got good programming, you're putting the effort into your sessions, then that's where having a little bit of testing data can really come in and determine where we need to focus on to improve our performance. It might be that it's something outside of your training where your weak points are. It might be nutrition, sleep, things like that. Maybe your body composition isn't exactly ideal where it should be. The question then becomes if we are willing to do those things. And don't get me wrong, this video said in 4 weeks, you can make significant changes in body composition in 4 weeks, particularly for those who are carrying an excessive amount of fat mass, which will just by default make you faster with very limited amounts of actual training effect, So Yeah, and the same with strength training as well, even a short block of strength. So don't neglect your weak points. Let's not hide from them. Let's be adults about it. Let's get our head out the sand and target those weak points. Mine's intervals, by the way. Hate doing intervals. Point number 4, cut out the junk volume. By junk volume, what I mean here is doing things that are going to detract from your training stimulus. You've got to remember the point of training is to elicit a physiological response which causes an adaptation which increases performance in the long run. The amount of time that I work with athletes who do work that isn't really contributing to their overall performance is astonishing to me. Now, I know there's a lot about, time on your feet, time on a bike, getting the miles in, like weekly mileage, whether you're a runner or a cyclist or a swimmer, it matters, right? But each one of those sessions should still have a purpose. If at the end of each training week, you're constantly exhausted, you're constantly not being able to hit the power outputs that you're after or the paces that you're after the week after, and take a look at look across the course of your week and think about what sessions that you're doing there are just, they're not recovery sessions, they're not enabling the body to recover. All it is basically just going out because you feel like doing something, and it's just detracting from the program, which I think, depending on where you are on your athlete journey, is fine. There's a certain point at which building a base is something that we should be doing. I'm a big fan of just time out and about for athletes up to a certain level. But the whole point of this is how to get faster in 4 weeks, particularly for those who maybe haven't got faster in a while, is to actually take a look at your programming, look at your training as it is, and say, what am I doing on top of that I could strip back away from to allow extra time for recovery, so that on those sessions that we are going to progress, or those sessions where I am setting targets, that I can hit those targets adequately, because we should be able to do that for several weeks on end without having a drop off in performance. And then yes, we might need to take a bit of a deload week, we might need to reduce volume for a week or two as we've got this accumulation of training stress over a training block, but we shouldn't feel like that every single week of training. Then the main thing to do there is, again, make sure that those sessions are actually trying to do something productive. We talk about easy sessions, like, oh, it's an easy session, or or whatever it might be. An easy session is still a training session. Going out and just meandering around for 3 hours isn't an easy ride if it's not part of your training program. It's just extra training or extra activity that isn't designed to produce a stimulus. I think the term easy run or easy cycle, or I think the terms easy run or easy cycle or easy session is one of the most misunderstood components of endurance performance. And so again, even an easy session should still have an adaptation that we're trying to target. Even if the heart rate zone isn't getting super high up, even if we're not getting into that zone sort of 4, zone, like even if we're staying in zone 2 the whole time, zone 2, and maybe flirting with zone 3, the whole point of that should then be a duration that we cause an adaptation. It is one of the biggest miscommunications in the coaching world that I've come across, mentoring students, working with athletes, is that people think like an easy session is related to how easy the session should be, rather than the heart rate zone and the pace that you're at. The duration is what should make it hard. So you have this interplay between duration and intensity. I might do a whole video on that on itself, because it is frustrating to me how many times people do like several hours of training a week at this easy effort intensity, easy RPE, but it's doing nothing for them. It's doing nothing for them, And again, I think easy for a professional is different, and easy for an elite level athlete is different to how we then translate that to ourselves as maybe recreational athletes. And that's where I think a lot of people struggle, and a lot of people waste a hell of a lot of their time. Point number 5, and their energy for that matter. Point number 5, fill in the gaps, guys. You know what you are or aren't doing. If you're not getting good quality sleep, if you're not doing your resistance training, if you're not getting the proper recovery strategies and stress management in place, then you're not going to make progress quickly. You're going to plateau faster. And I will guarantee for most people that if they could focus on their nutrition a little bit better, getting good quality sleep, doing a bit of strength training, particularly for endurance athletes who seem to only ever do it in an off season, keep it through year round, guarantee that within a few weeks of doing that, as long as you're sensible about, obviously with not the sleep, but like in terms of resistance training and things, if you're sensible about how you introduce those things into a program, I will guarantee that within a few weeks you will get noticeable improvements. At least most been interesting to you, please give me a like and a subscribe, and tune into the next video, because it might seem like it's from a strength sports background, but actually it's really applicable to a lot of endurance athletes who do strength training and then not doing strength training. Right guys, cheers for tuning in. Whatever it is you're doing, wherever it is you're doing it, have a great day.